who am I? And I think that was one of the people that spoke. I can't remember who, but they kind of said, like, who are you? Like, do you know who you are? And I was like, okay, like, oh, I'm just a supporter. And then it's like, okay, but what does that actually mean? Like, who am I really inside? Like, my identity isn't my husband. My identity is that I am, you know, with my husband together, the both of us side by side, and we work together to get through things. Because I can say that, you know, without him, I wouldn't be where I am, but without me, he wouldn't be where he is either.
Wow.
The two of us together are what make our marriage and our life, and, you know, these things that we're able to do and experience.
Welcome back to another episode of HerXpansion Podcast. I am so honored. Getting this guest here has been such a fun adventure and challenge all at the same time, but she is a powerhouse of a woman, an absolute lighthouse, and I'm super excited to have her on. Welcoming Emily Fullmer onto the podcast today. She is a wife and a mother of 4. She was a military wife, and she has lived and traveled all over the world. She has so much experience and expertise to share with you, and I'm super excited to dive into today's podcast. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you. I'm so happy to finally be here.
I know. It was honestly a struggle trying to just figure out timing and coordinate, and that's just the lifestyle of a busy mother and a wife of an entrepreneur, a business owner, and supporting that. Yeah. And it has been an adventure and a journey, but I'm so glad you're here because Emily has so much value and insight to give you guys. I know that. With that, tell us a little bit about your background. I know you were here local in Utah, but you've also lived all over the world. So give us your background, your upbringing, and some of the places that you've lived.
Cool. Yeah. So I was born and raised here in Utah. My family's been here for generations. So my husband and I, we met our senior year of high school. It happened pretty quick.
High school sweethearts.
Yeah, we fell in love pretty hard. Didn't take too long. And we graduated. We decided to get married at 18. It was only a few months after we graduated high school. And when we decided to get married, my husband went to my dad and said, you know, this is what we're thinking we want to do. And my dad said, okay, you want to be grown-ups? Then you're not living in my house. Don't ask me for money. Like, basically, you got to take care of yourselves. And so my husband, being the go-getter that he is, he's like, okay, I'll do it. So he decided to join the Air Force, which I don't think that's what my dad had in mind. I'm number 3 of 4 girls, and I was the first to get married. So that was kind of like a big deal for them. And so he joined the military. He went to basic training 2 months after we got married. It was actually on his birthday, his 19th birthday, that he went to basic training. And while he was gone for the 2 months, you know, I was at home, and we got our assignment, and it was to England, and we were just baffled.
And you're this young.
We were young, just kids.
Yeah. Just out of high school. And
I think about it all the time. It's crazy that my parents, like, thankfully my husband didn't end up being like a psychopath because I hadn't even known him for a whole year, you know? So it was pretty crazy, pretty wild, but it was incredible. Our first daughter was born there, which was a crazy experience. You know, my mom came out, but I didn't have any other family there. Thankfully, we had, you know, good support with church and people in the military and lots of help, but it definitely forced us to, 1, grow up, and 2, to depend on each other. We didn't have anyone else to go to. We couldn't go to mom's house if we had problems. We couldn't go to my sister's, you know. Obviously, we could call each other, but the time difference made a big difference, too.
Oh, yeah, because it's like night there when it's day here.
Yeah. So you only have so much time you can even talk. So I feel like that was such a good base for us to start on, where we just learned to completely depend on each other, figure life out on our own. You know, we're just kids. And it was really, really amazing, and I'm really grateful for it. After that, we went to Idaho, so that was nice. We were a little bit closer to home. But then my husband's time was just about up in the Air Force. We signed up for 6 years, and it was almost time to get out.
For
3
of those years. Wow.
Yeah. And then we were in Idaho. We'd been there for about a year and a half or so, and Will had gone on a deployment to Turkey. And while he was there, he met someone who was an officer. So he was enlisted originally. And to be an officer, you have to have a bachelor's degree. So the whole time we're in the military, Will was working, my husband, Will, he was working on his bachelor's degree in business. And he just finished that. And he's like, I'm kind of getting this feeling that we should stay in and that I should become an officer. And I was like, no, I want to go home. I want to be by my family. Like, all my family's still in Utah. My sister's starting to have kids. Like, I don't want to live away. But of course, you know, God had different plans for us, and we felt like we should do it and just try it. I'm like, okay, let's do it. So he became an officer, took the test he needed to, passed, and we got our next assignment. And when you become an officer, you have to move immediately. You can't stay where you're at. So we got assigned to Hawaii, and which was really lucky. And I say lucky, but my husband has a way of making things work, even though it seems impossible.
Yes.
When we got they give you like a dream sheet. You write down like 5 places you'd like to go, and they say, please write 5 because we can't guarantee you can give you your first choice. And my husband put only Hawaii. He's 12 of 13 kids. Mm-hmm. And so he has siblings that live out there. And he's like, I've always wanted to be out there, and it'd be so cool just to have a few years out there. So he just put Hawaii, and he gets a phone call from the guy who does the selections, and he says, Fullmer, what were you thinking? Why would you only put one place? It literally says at the top, like, you're an officer now and you can't even follow simple directions. Mm-hmm. And he said, listen, there's a reason. I've got family there that I've been dying to be out there with them. Like, please just, you know, we would love this opportunity. And the guy said, okay, fine, I'll see what I can do.
Incredible.
Yeah, so we got it, and my mom was a little bit sad. She's like, no, we finally had too close to home. But yeah, and that just kind of showed me, like, when you know what you want and you know what you need, if you just say no, there's no other choice. This is what's happening.
I love that.
Yeah.
You put that, he just intentionally designed that. Mm-hmm. And it's very, when you're intentional and you actually map out, and even though there's 1,000 other options, it's like, no, I know what I want, and I intentionally want this. It's exactly what he got.
Exactly.
And what you guys got. That's incredible.
Yep. And Will, there's a quote he always says, and I'm pretty sure it's from William Shakespeare. I can't remember for sure, but it's that doubts are traitors of the mind that often rob us of what could have been. You know, like, if you say, oh, like, because when he said he wanted to do that, I was like, are you sure? Like, am I getting in trouble? He's like, no, like, I'm gonna do it. And you don't know until you try. Mm-hmm. Like, if you say, you know, what if this could be? Well, no, it probably won't. Maybe it could have been. Yeah. You never would have known. So we go to Hawaii, and it was amazing. It was awesome living out there. I had baby number 2 and 3. Well, I had baby number 2 right before we left, and then I had baby number 3 in Hawaii. At first, we lived on base on Pearl Harbor, which was really, really cool experience. And then we were able to buy a house with his brother on the North Shore, which was really great. But then COVID hit right after we moved up there, so we couldn't go to the beach, couldn't go anywhere. It was a little bit of a bummer. We were kind of stuck inside, but it was still great. And as we're out there, you know, we had decided, let's just stay in the military. Let's just make it a career. We'll just do our 20 years. We can retire when we're young. Like, it'll be great. But as we're out there, Will runs into one of his oldest brothers who was running a roofing company. And he's like, I think we need to do this with him. And I was like, we're changing plans again. Like, are you sure? But it was really kind of amazing because in a roundabout way, because we followed what we felt God was telling us to do, we got exactly what we wanted, but in a better circumstance. Because he decided to do that, he got out of the military, and we were able to move back to Utah. And we came back at a really great time, and we had the VA loan with the military, and we were able to sell our house in Hawaii and buy a house here in Utah, and we ended up in a house that is another miracle in and of itself, how we got this house, and we love where we're at. So I think that if you're willing to do the hard things and to do the things that you feel like you need to, even if it's not what you want in the moment, that it all comes full circle, that you always come back to exactly where you need to be and where you really actually have the most happiness.
Unbelievable. That is so cool. Yeah. And the experiences that you've gained along the way, I'm sure you could tell stories for days on. Yeah. And tell me, I mean, there's a lot of us listening that you're so direct, and you're like, I knew exactly what we were going to do, and we took the risk and we did the thing. And there is a lot of people who doubt and hesitate out there, and especially us as women. Yeah. We like security, we like safety, we like certainty. Yeah. And so kind of tell us, how did you work through some of those things, and what expanded your confidence in that area?
Honestly, a lot of it was my husband. He's just been that way. I don't know if it's just from birth or from his childhood, what it is, but he's just very like, I'm going to make it happen. Like, so awesome. You want that house? I'm going to make it happen. You want to do this? I'm going to make it happen. It might not be in the way that I think, But that's the way that he's always been. And I've really, gained a lot of my inspiration and who I am from that like, I have a lot of doubts, and I grew up having a lot of doubts about who I am and what I need to do and what I'm capable of doing. But actually one of the things that really did it for me that I can talk about is the trip to California, the first circle trip that we did. Oh my gosh. That was life-changing for me. It really was, because it is hard. I feel like with my personality.
Just a little backstory.
Yeah, go ahead.
We have been, how I met Emily was through these masterminds. And the reason why these are so powerful is because we build these relationships and we collaborate. Yeah. And that was like really the first opportunity I got to see and meet you. And you and Will were the most inspiring couple there. And your confidence and taking a woman into that scenario, which she'll kind of explain, was, it just sounded totally out of the box, something you would totally not do. But you had this confidence and this willingness and this drive and this, I will stand by and support and continue to grow myself alongside of you. And I thought that was so inspiring. Yeah. But so that trip really did expand you.
It was amazing. So,
tell us about it.
I've always been like, I'm a supporter. That's my role. That's my personality. That's who I am. But I think that oftentimes we mistake that as being like, I'm just a backseat. Like, I don't need to do anything for myself. I just need to make sure you're who you need to be, And that's what I've always felt for Will.
So many women feel that way. I know a lot of women out there listening feel that way. Yeah. And they see this supporter as this negative condensation, which a supporter actually means to bear the weight of something.
Yes, exactly.
It does not mean the back seat.
Exactly.
Which I love that you said that, because just acknowledging that and owning that as female, we are the helper to the man.
Right.
We are the supporter. And that means to bear weight and to provide a structure and a stability to help build your legacy. Yeah. I think that's so powerful.
Yep, absolutely.
I love that you said that.
Yeah. Yeah, no. So while we're out there, I kind of had that realization a little bit of like, who am I? And I think that was one of the people that spoke. I can't remember who, but they kind of said like, who are you? Like, do you know who you are? And I was like, okay, like, I'm just a supporter. And then it's like, okay, but what does that actually mean? Like, who am I really inside? Like, my identity isn't my husband. My identity is that I am, with my husband together, the both of us side by side, and we work together to get through things. Because I can say that, without him, I wouldn't be where I am, but without me, he wouldn't be where he is either. Wow. The two of us together are what make our marriage and our life, and these things that we're able to do and experience. And so being out there was really, really cool. And I loved doing that morning that we got up with the military, and I think it was Navy SEALs, and I was like not expecting it to be that intense. I was like, oh, this won't be too bad. No, I got this. I'll be fine. Oh my goodness. By the end of that, I was like, I was dying. But it just showed me like, I'm capable of so much. Like there's so much that I can do, so much more than I realize. And I feel like that happens a lot, especially with women, that you're like, oh, I don't think I can do that. I don't know if I could ever achieve that. And I think that the world we live in, especially where there's so much comparison, we see so many other people like, oh, I could never look like that, or I could never accomplish those things. Like, that's not for me. That's not in the cards for me. And it's hard because we do have to realize like the things that we're called to in our lives, and it may not be the same as someone else, but that doesn't mean that it's any lesser. Every single person is important. Every person is needed in the world. And when you can realize that, you can say, okay, this is who I am. This is my role in this world. This is my role in my life, and the people that are around me. And this is what I have to offer. And now I can build on that. And I don't have to worry about, your role is different than mine, and you're going to do different things in your life. And that's great. And that's okay. And it's not a bad thing for us to have different roles. And
this is so powerful. You are dropping absolute fire right now. Like, let's just listen to Emily for hours. Please.
Well, it's great because I have a lot of time to think as I'm, washing dishes and doing laundry. Good. And so it's nice. It's nice to be able to kind of talk with people about it. Obviously I talk to my husband, I talk to my sisters and things. But yeah, I just feel like there's just so much more. There's so much more for people out there and for women out there to realize and to come to know about themselves. And
what would you say? I mean, you've done a really good job at knowing that you can expand your capabilities and knowing that you are capable. Yeah. What would you say for those out there listening that are questioning, what do you mean by capabilities, and how do I really expand myself? And I am doing all these things, but what do you say some of the things that really could open up and expand your capabilities and your knowledge to do better?
Right. Well, I think it just starts with, you got to realize who you are, like who you are as a person. And I think that this kind of leads into something I was wanting to talk about finding out who you are. And there's an experience that I had that kind of leads into this with my son. I've got 4 kids, a girl, boy, girl, boy. And I've got my 7-year-old, Jack, and he's one of the sweetest, most tender kids on the planet. He is such a sweetheart, but he's a 7-year-old boy. Mm-hmm. So with that comes its challenges. And there was one day that he was fighting with his little brother over something, and they're pulling back and forth, and he was getting mad, and in his frustration, he hit him. He hit his little brother. And me, in my natural mom state, was just like, Jack, why'd you do that? Don't hit your brother. And he runs off crying. And I'm like, oh no. And he goes to his room, he closes the door, so I give him a few minutes, and there was something that came to my mind that my husband had said to me a little while ago, and I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna try this out. So I go into his bedroom, and he's sitting on his bed, and he's got the blanket over his head, and I sit down, and I'm like, hey Jack, like, you okay? And he's like, oh. And I'm like, it's all right. And he's like, I'm just a bad kid. I was like, Jack, you're not a bad kid. And in the past, I would have said, you're a really good kid, it's okay. But instead, I said, Jack, you're not a bad kid, and you're not a good kid. You're not a smart kid. You're not a dumb kid. You're just Jack. That's who you are. You're Jack. And for me, you know, I believe in God. And I said, you're Jack and you're a child of God. That's the only thing that you are.
So powerful. Oh, I just got the chills.
Yeah.
Because this is so powerful. The titles, and even back to when we were a little kid, that get placed on us, can be so detrimental, and we start to identify that. Exactly. But that's not who the soul essence is of who we are. And I know that you wanted to talk a little bit about this because you believe so strongly that people, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are giving themselves titles of, I have this title of I'm anxiety, or I'm ADHD, which those are great ways to help you identify some of the things that you may struggle with. Yes. But they don't identify you as who you are.
Totally. And I think even the good things too, like for me as a kid, I was the perfect child. I didn't do anything wrong. I was always good in school. I didn't fight, you know? And so that's who I was, and that's who I identified as. And I know that like my parents and the people who are around me said that as a nice thing, like, oh, you're so wonderful. You're so good. You always do everything right. The problem was then, when I made a mistake, it was like, wait a minute, but I'm supposed to be perfect. Why did I make this mistake?
As an adult.
And or even as a kid, you know, I was like, oh,
super hard on yourself.
Like I'm supposed to be perfect. Like, why did I make this bad choice then? Like now I have an identity crisis of, am I fake? Like, do people not really know who I am? And you kind of build up a wall of like, I gotta hide because people think I'm perfect, but really I'm not, you know? And so I think that realizing in yourself, like, I'm not perfect, I'm not good, I'm not bad, I'm not anything. I'm just me. This is who I am. And you know what? I make good choices sometimes. Sometimes I make bad choices. Sometimes I do smart things. Sometimes I do dumb things. But those things don't define who I am.
Those are just the human side of us.
That's just human.
But there's a soul all just within.
People. Yeah. And that's not your value. That's not your worth. Your worth isn't defined by the choices, you know, that you make. And I think that it's for both spectrums, because my oldest, she is a good kid. She does good things. And I often have to stop myself from saying like, wow, you're so good, you're so good, you're so good, you're so perfect, you always follow the rules. Because I don't want her to create that identity within herself, because I don't want her to have the same struggle that I did. Where now it's like, oh, I just made a mistake, and so now I'm gonna beat myself up because I'm supposed to be good. Like, no, like I love you for exactly who you are, no matter what you do. Your worth and your value to me isn't dependent on the choices you make.
That is so powerful. And in fact, it's making me think of the word acceptance. And acceptance is such a high frequency when you can really accept and love who you are, and accept that you are human and you're learning on this journey, and you're gaining these experiences, and you're continuing to progress. And when you are not putting labels or titles on yourself, you're actually accepting the things the way they are. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. It's all part of this plan. It's all part of the building up of me. It's all part of the journey and process. But that doesn't define the value or the worth of my soul. Which is more lasting and eternal.
Exactly. And that is what can help people and help women to find who they are, and to find what their values are and find what they're good at and find out, so that you're not, you know, restricting yourself and tying yourself to these labels of what people have told you are, or maybe what you've told yourself that you are. It opens it up to, okay, I'm just me. So who do I want to be? What do I want to do? You know, I'm just a person, and I can choose today. You know what? Yesterday I made a lot of bad choices, but guess what? Today I'm going to make good choices, and I'm going to go do what I can to help other people and to help myself, to help my kids.
This is so powerful. And the power behind this is huge, because I think even people who are moms for 40 years and then their kid moves out, or even 20 years or 10 years, however long you're a mom, and you have this identity of I'm a mother. Yeah. And it's like, yes, you are, but you're also so much more than that.
Yes.
And when the world places all these titles on you, you have to be CEO and you have to be all these different things, and you need to serve this way or do it that way, it takes away from your true spiritual and innate gifts that you have to offer.
Absolutely.
And is actually a distraction and a blocker.
Yep.
So that is so, like, everything you're saying, I feel like I need to go back and listen again, because it's so good. It's really just knowing and defining your worth, and that the control is, you have all the control within and connection to God.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's so powerful.
Yep.
Wow. Talk to me about community, because you've been a military wife. You've also been involved in other communities and involved in our mastermind. Why is community important to you, and how have you expanded your community?
So I think that community is crazy important. I feel like, especially in the world that we live in today, everyone is isolated. And I think especially women, mothers who are at home, you're just at home every day, and you have your kids, and, you know, your husband gets home from work. But like, I think that it's so important to have people that are around you that can help you on your path of finding who you are. Because, you know, you are one of those people for me. When I came out there and I was able to see you and see the kind of person that you are, and see all these people in this group and see the people that they are, and that we all have our different lives and different struggles and things we're going through, it helps us to look inside of ourselves and see who we are, and then get outside of ourselves to see who we can help and see who we can touch. And that together makes the world a good place. You know what I mean? And so I think that it's so important, and there was a lot of that in the military, and it's hard. It's hard because I think it depends on who you're with and who you're around and stuff. But
yeah, environment plays a huge factor.
It plays a huge factor. But if every person could just realize, like, I'm needed in this space that I'm in, these people that are around me, they need me just as much as I need them.
Yes.
That then we could all just come together and realize, like, we're all just struggling. We're all just people in this world that are just doing our best, and sometimes not doing our best. Sometimes we're at our worst, but we all need each other to help each other through this life. Like, you can't do it alone. There's a reason we're not all just put on our own little planet to just figure it out. Like, we need each other.
So powerful. It made me think of, even recently, I've realized there's certain places and spaces that I've been selfish because I haven't been going, because I don't feel like I'm okay to be in that space or whatever. Yeah. But I'm realizing that I'm robbing other people of their gifts to share their light and their knowledge with me. And it's not about me all the time. It's about the connection. It's about serving other people. So I love that you said that, because it was a really great reminder. Yeah. Which leads into the next question, expanding your connections. Why connection is so important, and how have you expanded connections and been able to connect with other people?
Yeah, so I think that can be a hard one. Again, being a mother. I've worked before, but right now I'm just at home, and it can be hard to find the connections. But I think that it needs to start within. It needs to start with inside. There was actually a quote when we went to Tahiti for the circle thing that was, can't remember what his name was, but it says, you can't find without what you don't have within. And so I think that if you can start with loving yourself and loving who you are, it will help you to do the same for others. Because I've had that before where I'm like, oh, I feel like I don't belong. I feel like I can't feel things from other people. I feel lost. I feel alone. And I've realized that when I come back to myself and say, okay, why do I feel this way? What's happening inside of me? And I realize I'm putting those things on myself. I'm telling myself, you're alone. You're not enough. You can't help people. There's nothing you can do. Which are all lies. It's not true. And when you realize that and say, you know what? I love myself and I love exactly who I am. I may not be able to, do what Sally down the street can do and take dinner to every person that needs help in the neighborhood.
But I'm progressing.
But I can do what I can do, and I may be able to stop by someone's house when I get the feeling to, and just to give them a hug and say, hey, how are you doing? And that may not seem like that big of a deal to me.
That's a gift.
But that's exactly what that person could need. And for us to realize that, like, it doesn't always have to be some grand thing. Like, there are people who, like, organize big charity events and all these things, and like, wow, that's so amazing. I wish I could be that good.
You can serve in your community
and
connect on such a scale. And that's really where it should be.
Yes.
Is the people that are in your area, the people that are around you, the people you see in the grocery store, the people you see, that community needs your help. It needs you. Like, you're in a place and space and a time for exactly that.
Exactly.
I love this. This is so good. And you said, like, and I know you're passionate about this too. When you can't feel something, you mentioned, I don't know if I can feel that, or I can't feel other people. What do you suggest we do if you're like, well, that's great, just not me.
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do in those moments?
You serve people. Honestly, that helps me the most when I'm feeling like I can't feel anything, because I feel like when we're stuck in our heads, we get in this like pit of just like, I'm alone. No one understands what I'm going through. When you go out and you serve someone else and you get outside of that, you realize like, oh, that person's going through their struggles too. And it might be harder, it might be easier. It doesn't matter. Everyone is going through something difficult. And when you serve someone, one, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel happy. Yeah, it's a good feeling. And then it can help you realize like, oh, like, everyone is struggling. You know what? And that person that I just served might be feeling the exact same thing that I was feeling. And I think that also it's important to remember that service isn't always, kind of like what I said, it doesn't always have to be some big grand thing. There was one time when I had 3 kids and I was at the grocery store and I was struggling. This was before like delivery or pickup. Like, I was in the store trying to get through all the aisles and get all the things that we needed. And I had one kid throwing everything out of the car. I had one kid who was crying. The other kid that was walking and said their legs hurt. And I'm like, I just need to get through the store. We got to get these groceries so I can get home. And I come around the very last aisle. We're almost there. And, sorry, I will try not to cry, but I might. We come around the corner and a lady walks past. She says, wow, you're amazing. You're a super mom. And then just kept going. And for her, that was just a small little thing, and she doesn't know what a difference it made for me. But that made such a big difference for me. Like, you know what? I am a mom, and I can do this. This is what I was born to do. This is what I was built to do.
Wow.
I was made.
I'm cheering up over here.
I was made to be a mother and to take care of these kids and to go through and it's such a silly thing. It seems like such a silly thing, like just to make it through the grocery store. Like, there are people out there who struggle with so much worse. But in that moment, I was overwhelmed and I was having anxiety and worried about, can I make it through the store? What are these people thinking? My kids are unhappy, But in that moment of her just saying that, following that, prompting she had to say that to me, that's all it takes. That's all it takes for someone. And you don't know. Sometimes you do get to see, but most of the time you don't. You don't know what a difference that could make for someone.
Yes, it is so powerful, going back to the simple basics. And I feel like the thing that blocks us is we overcomplicate things. Yeah. We overanalyze, we overthink, we over when it's really the smallest thing. And I even look at this as just, I believe in Christ and I follow Christ. And even just, he asked for the simplest thing. He literally, and we want to overcomplicate it. We want to learn all these things. We want to try to be and do and everything he did. Yeah. And all he says, come follow me. Yeah. Walk my walk. Yeah. Do people. My thing. Love my, love my people. Love people. Yeah. And it's so simple. And it's really the simplest things make the biggest difference in someone's world with that story you just shared. And it is so powerful. And I could feel how powerful it was. Yeah. And we all have the ability to do that. Yeah. Because I still remember it. That was like, 6 years ago? It was a long time ago, but I still remember it. And it's a part of who I am now. You have the ability to make a difference in someone's life and to expand someone's life for the better.
And I think that sometimes when you're the person in that situation, to give that to someone, you get nervous, you get scared. And that's normal, and it's easy to be like, oh, like I don't make them feel weird, or I don't want to like say something if they don't actually want help, but you know what? What's the worst that can happen? You say it and they're still a little grumpy and like, and they walk away, which usually isn't the case.
You still feel
you still did it.
You served.
You still tried. Yeah. And I guarantee 99% of the time the person is going to be grateful for it.
I love that. You've touched on a lot of things that just the soul desires. And I think there's 4 things that a soul desires: to serve others, to love, to have growth and expansion, and to believe in a higher power and hope and have faith in something greater.
Exactly.
And you've literally touched on all 4 of those pillars. That's just goes to show you how powerful this is. I absolutely love it. You've grown in a lot of ways. You've expanded your consciousness and your awareness in a lot of different areas. Kind of tell me some things that have helped you expand in that area and really help you to grow in becoming more aware, becoming more attentive, growing in your consciousness, finding more solutions to continue to help you expand and progress on life's journey.
So I honestly feel like a lot of it's happened just in the last few years. You know, I'm 30, almost 31, and I feel like, you know, we also don't really fully develop till later 20s, you know what I mean? And so I think that as a younger person, I feel like, oh, I don't really know who I am, but I'm just gonna just do my thing, just live life. But I feel like in the last few years, there's been a lot of just soul searching, just looking inside of myself and being like, not only who am I, but who do I want to be? Who do I want to be? And I feel like through my husband being in the space that he's in, you know, he's a business owner, that's given me a lot of opportunities to meet other people and to talk to other people. And it's brought me out of my shell. I was a very, very shy kid. I was really nervous.
Me too.
I didn't really talk to people. I didn't make friends easily. So even like now, like if you would have told me, you know, 10, 15 years ago that I would be doing a podcast, I'd be like, no way, there's no way I would ever do that. Like, not happening. But when you just realize that kind of what I already said, that you're needed in the world, you'd be like, okay, well, I can't hold back then. I can't hold back. Like, if I have a gift to give, if I have something inside of me that can help other people, then it's selfish of me to keep that from them. And so you have to just kind of, I've learned to get out of my fear, to be uncomfortable, to be like, you know what, I don't think I remember that person's name, but I'm just gonna go say hi anyways. And if I say it wrong, big deal. You know what I mean? Most people are not going to care. They're not going to be like, I'm really sorry.
They're going to care that you saw them.
That I even tried. Yeah, it's just a matter of just do it. You just have to just do it. You have to just accept that sometimes things might be uncomfortable. Sometimes you might embarrass yourself. Sometimes you might say the wrong thing, but everyone is afraid. If you look around and you see people that seem so confident in themselves, everyone has that inner voice that's like, you shouldn't do it. People might think you're dumb. People might not want to hear what you have to say, when it's not true. The people that might feel that way, it's just because they haven't found it within themselves yet.
They have to go to battle, to go to war against it and start overcoming.
And that's what I've done in myself.
I'm in control. I'm in charge.
I had to break those boundaries of what I thought I was and who I thought I was and like what I was limited to. I was in this little box of like, this is me and it's just never gonna change, and I'm never gonna be good at talking. I'm never gonna be good at helping people. I'm always gonna be shy. Like, my husband is such a good speaker. He's just so easily just talks to anyone and everyone.
My husband
and he's
too.
not afraid. And I was always like, oh, I'll never be that. There's no way. And then one day I was like, it actually was when we moved back here to Utah, and I was like, you know what? Why can't I be that? I'm going to come into this new place, this new house, this new neighborhood where no one knows who I am. They don't know the kind of person I am. So I'm just going to pretend like that's who I am. I'm just like my husband. And if he can go up and just talk to random people, so can I. And once I just started doing it, I was like, oh, it's actually not that bad. And it's fun. It's nice. It feels good to like communicate and talk to people and connect with people and learn their story and learn where they're from. And then I can share my things and we can come together and you can create beautiful relationships. And so I think that the biggest thing is just stop being afraid.
Yeah.
Stop being, and just do it.
The one thing you have is the relationships you make. And if you take an opportunity to make, you don't know that your lifelong support and best friend could be one conversation away.
Exactly.
Or you don't know that you could have an impact on somebody's life for their lifelong that they will remember forever. one couple words away.
Yeah.
One impact away.
Yeah. Or they could change yours.
Yeah.
You don't know if that person, maybe you feel like you need to say something because they have something to give you. And that could help you in your journey and in your path. And you really just have no idea. So get out of your comfort zone. Just do it.
Just do it. And
I can even say, like, maybe don't just stop being scared, because I'm still scared. You know what I mean? You get nervous about doing anything.
The fear. I'm like, thank you so much for being there, because I can see that you're trying to protect me. But in this circumstance, this is going to be the best thing for me. So I'm moving forward with courage. I always am. Thank you, fear. I appreciate you looking out for me. But in this moment, I'm taking courage.
Yeah. And I think that there's opposition to everything. So like the amount of fear that you like have in doing something, if you do it, you're going to feel an equal amount of like, wow, I'm amazing. I did that. Like, so you just got to do it. And you can start small. It doesn't have to be like, okay, you know, I'm going to get over this fear and now I'm going to go and, you know, speak in front of thousands of people. Like, it doesn't have to be that. Like, just start with something small, start with something little, but just, if you little by little get outside of your comfort zone and do something a little bit more, it's just going to keep growing and keep going.
So powerful. Wow. Everything you have shared today is fire. You're the ultimate encourager, motivator, supporter. And I can just feel that. For those of you listening, I know you're feeling encouraged and motivated and supported by Emily, because I am. And that's what she does. And in her presence and the light and the gift that she is exactly that. And I'm just honored to have and to hear from you on this level. You've been through so many experiences that have developed you into this incredible human being that you are. Mother, wife, friend, engaging in your communities and all the people that you come in contact with. And I just have to know, what's the mantra that you, and the values that you live by, that you go after when you are feeling like things are all off? You do have you have values and mantras that bring you back to that center and that are part of you, of who you are in. Where does that come from and what are those? So my kind of mantra for myself is be aggressive in doing that what you know to be true, and strive with all your heart to be the right kind of person. So good. I just got the chills again. Like, you're bringing the spirit and that for me is something that I try every day to live by. I don't always do it, because again, I'm not good, I'm not bad, I'm just me. And sometimes I don't, and sometimes I do. But I think that if you can have something for yourself like that, that's like, you know what? I'm just gonna try. I'm just gonna always try and just do what I know is right, do what I know is true, regardless of what people say around me. And with that, try to be good. Just try to be the right kind of person. Like, it doesn't mean I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be, you know, exactly what values do you feel like makes a good person? When you say try to be good, people could be like, I don't know, like, what is good? Like, how am I good? What would you say, like, the values and standards that really bring out the best in someone? Honestly, I think just being who you are. Because I think that innately, we're all good. You know, we all have the ability to make a difference. And if we can stop worrying about being like someone else, then you will be good. You'll be the kind of good that's needed in your space. You'll be the kind of good that's needed for your kids. Like, you know, it's hard to get on Instagram and see all these moms doing all these fun crafts and all these cool things with their kids and taking them to these amazing places. And it's like, oh, wow, like, I'm never going to be like that. I'm never going to be that kind of a mom. But that's not the kind of mom your kids need. They need exactly who you are. And comparison is the thief of joy. And you have the gifts within. All of this is like coming together. So the value really is, it's already there. It's already inside of you. It's inside of every person. So beautiful. Like, there's nothing you even need to try to like there's no bar you got to try and reach. Like, we're all there. You are the person that you need to be. So just be it. That is so good. That is so incredible. Because if you look at the depth of that, you're really going into the spirit and the soul of who you are. Yes. And you're really going into, we were all born with light. Yep. We were all born with a purpose. We were all born with gifts to give and to share and to experience in this world. Yeah. And I just love the underlying message of all of that. Yeah. So powerful. Wow. Okay, I gotta go back and listen to this podcast. And if I'm having like a blue moment, this is the podcast, right? It's just like seeing that you're more than capable. Yeah. You can expand your capabilities. You can expand your knowledge, your confidence, your communities, your connection.
Yeah.
And you'll continue to progress and expand on life journey.
Yeah.
And as you continue to expand, you expand your life and the lives you lead.
Exactly.
And that's why I'm so passionate about showcasing women in their expansion, because we all are on this journey of continuing to grow and expand ourselves. And what you said today is really deep, is really figuring out who you are and knowing that you have innate value and worth in something much greater than you can even comprehend.
Exactly.
So, so beautiful. Well, I love that. Anything else that you feel on your heart or impressed to share with our listeners before we wrap this up?
Let me think. I think that's kind of my main thing. The main thing that I really wanted to share is be who you are and don't be afraid to be who you are, and realize that the person that you are right now is exactly the person that you are supposed to be. And that regardless of what other people may think, what other people may say, other people may do with their own lives, that you have inside of you so much more potential than you even realize. Every single person. And that if we can stop the comparing, the questioning of, could I ever be as good as that person? Could I ever do what that person that person does? That if you can just love who you are and start there, you're gonna become greater than you ever could have even imagined.
Wow. Okay, there you have it. Just like play that at night before you go to sleep. Just that last like minute of her talking, and you just like fall into bliss and like reprogram that in your mind and your heart and your soul, because that is what's true. Be true to you. Be true to the things that are good, that are whole, that are uplifting, that are
and don't beat yourself up on the days that you don't. Because guess what? This sounds great for me to say this all right now. I have so many days where I don't do it, or I don't follow these things that I'm saying, and I don't feel all those things, and I feel like the sadness, and I beat myself up, and I say, harsh things to myself inside of my head. Like, so if that's you right now, it's okay, because it happens to all of us. We're just human.
The opposition helps us grow.
We're just people, and it's hard to see people who say all these things and think like, oh man, like I can never have that. None of us are perfect. We all have our struggles. We all have our hard days. We're all experiencing life, which is struggle. It just is. That's just part of what.
But it's the struggle that creates the growth.
Exactly.
It couldn't exist without each other. Like you said, there is opposition in all things. And if you didn't know the bad, then you wouldn't know the good.
Exactly.
If you couldn't feel the bad, you wouldn't feel the good.
Yes.
And so the things that happen for a reason.
Yeah, totally. There's actually a song that everyone should listen to. It's by a guy named Corey Asbury, and it's called Everything Belongs. And it's one of my favorite songs. He talks about like the good and the bad, the happy, the sad. It all belongs. It's all meant to be.
Belongs.
We want to escape. We want to run away from the sadness and the pain, because no one wants to feel that. But it's all necessary. We need it. We need it all, because that is what grows us. And one of the lines he says is, the wise man knows that heartbreak writes the song. That like the things, the pain that we experience, that's what creates who we are. That's what brings the joy. Like you said, you have to have both.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we'll leave you with that. Your homework is to go and listen to that song.
And then start loving yourself, who you are, and go from there.
Especially you as women. Anyone out there listening, know that you're a leader. Know that you're leading yourself. Know that you have the power within you. Continue to expand your life and the lives you lead. Thank you so much for being on today's episode. This was such a treat. Long time coming, and we hope that it impacts as many lives as it can. Make sure you share it with a friend, or if any of it resonated with someone you thought came to mind, share it with them so that they can listen and get inspired, uplifted, and encouraged by Emily Fullmer. We appreciate you. Until next time.